This is KGW News at Sunrise.
Our top story this morning, temperatures in the 90s the next couple of days, along with gusty east winds, are raising the fire danger levels in Oregon and Southwest Washington. In response to that, PGE and Pacific Power will shut off power for thousands of people today and tomorrow in an effort to lower the chances of sparking more wildfires.
And to help you get all the information that you need to know, we do have live team coverage this morning. Devin Haskins is in Lyons with updates on the power shutoffs. Chris McGinnis is here to look at how the wind today compares to 2020. But first this morning, let's start off with Rod and a look at the current conditions.
Yeah, and we're going to begin with the wide view. So everything colored red on the map is the red flag warning for high fire danger. Depending on where you are, the times of start and stop for the warning can vary. But up and down the I-5 corridor, Vancouver, Portland, Salem, over to the coast, the fire danger warning begins at 11 this morning and extends through 11 o'clock tomorrow evening. We're pretty calm out there right now, but winds will be picking up going into the afternoon hours. So we're not talking about winds that would be strong enough to say it's a wind storm, but we are talking about winds that if this were in the middle of the winter, it would be a typical breezy to gusty east wind day. So this afternoon, hot afternoon temps, about 90 here in the valley, and tomorrow even warmer, up to about 98. East winds for most of the valley later today, 15 to 25 mile per hour breezes. Maybe you live in a spot where you don't get much east wind, but most of us will feel the breezes. And then usual spots, one of those being out near the gorge, could see some gusts reach 40. We are looking at the Cascade Crest forecast for potential 40 to 50 mile per hour winds. We're at 60 right now. There's the heat up, but the humidity factors will be really low with temps about 90. Okay, getting more into the detail on when the winds will be at their peak and where. Here's meteorologist Chris McGinnis.
Yeah, thanks, Rod, for that. As you noted with the red flag advisory, or red flag warning, I should say, it's about a 36-hour window that we're kind of focused in on. So let me walk you through hour by hour what Futurecast is showing us here. Our modeling this morning at 5 o'clock, and then we'll roll the clock into mid to late morning. Here we are at 10:30, and that east wind now ratcheting up here in the Portland area. There's the arrow. It's pointing in the direction that the wind is blowing from, right? So you've got the arrow pointing from the east to the west, 30 mile per hour gusts at PDX. And the gusts start to pick up here, not just through the gorge, but throughout the length of the Cascade Mountains from southern Washington all the way down through southern Oregon, right? So it's not just a gorge event, as we've been saying. These winds are expected to come up and over the Cascades and then down the west slope. So everybody will be impacted in some form or another by these east wind gusts. We'll feel the east wind gust at the coast as well. 20 to 25 is pretty common here. As I roll the clock into the afternoon, the winds get a little stronger. Look at this, Hillsborough up to about 36. The color coding on here represents, as you look up towards these red and magenta colors, represents 40 to 50 mile per hour wind gusts or in excess of that. And those are kind of reserved for the higher terrain in the Cascades, of course, where many of the PGE and Pacific Power transmission lines reside, right? So that's why they are preemptively shutting off some of the lines here in these areas because of those expected high wind gusts. And this is even early tomorrow morning. You can see that the east winds are still gusting to 30, maybe 35 miles an hour here in town. Let's fast forward a little bit into Sunday. This is kind of interesting. Saturday night into Sunday, you see a real quick reversal here. So we will see these winds tamp down pretty quickly eventually by Saturday evening and early Sunday, and we'll be done with this event. Where does this compare in perspective to our historic 2020 windstorm? Well, the biggest gust that we can register here was the top of the Magic Mile ski lift, a 106 mile an hour gust during that wind event. Government camp at the pass levels, 60 to 70 mile an hour gusts were pretty common. And even here in Portland, we registered a 52 mile an hour wind gust at the airport. So once again, for some perspective, we are not expecting winds to gust this strong, but strong enough that they could bring down trees on power lines. And for that reason, as we mentioned, PGE and Pacific Power preemptively shutting off power in some locations. And for more on that, we head to Lynn County, where Devin Haskins is live in one of the areas impacted by those preemptive shutoffs. Devin?
Yeah, Chris, power companies say to expect these power shutoffs to happen through the weekend. They say they could last a couple hours, but for customers, be prepared for a even longer shutoff. Now here in Lyons, that expected shutoff is supposed to happen here around the 6 o'clock hour. So still some time. And if you're in some areas, you may have already experienced a shutoff because PGE says sometimes, or at some locations, they're going to shut off around the 3 o'clock a.m. hour. Others, it may not happen until later on this morning. Pacific Power says their customers' shutoffs will impact more than 12,000 customers in Lynn, Douglas, Lincoln, Tillamook, Polk, and Marion counties. Power companies said that they expect to restore power sometime Saturday afternoon, though they won't do it until the company knows that it's safe to re-energize their power lines. Portland General says theirs will impact another 30,000 customers in 10 areas. Some of those include the West Hills of Portland, Oregon City, Estacada, and even the Columbia Gorge.
So, Devin, this has kind of an unintended consequence of you can't go to school if there is no power. So a lot of districts in those areas had to cancel for today, right?
Yeah, we know of 3 districts that have shut down schools for the day. Those include Sweet Home, Silver Falls, and Santiam Canyon school districts. We talked with Santiam Canyon superintendent about how this hits too close to home just 2 years after the Beachy Creek fire.
What is predicted weather-wise is nearly identical event to what happened 2 years ago. So it really has brought up a lot of emotions. You know, I think just in the past 24 hours, I've seen tears. I've seen it you can see it on the looks of people's faces, that they're preoccupied, they're worried and concerned.
And of course, you can always head to our website, kgw.com, for the latest on these power shutoffs. Plus, get an in-depth look at each of the power companies' maps, where the affected areas of these shutoffs are, and how long they'll last. We'll send it back to you guys.
All right, Devin Haskins reporting live in Marion County for us. Our next stop here this morning is Yamhill County because we checked in with people who live in Sheridan as they prepare for power getting shut off. PGE called residents to let them know outages could also start there as early as this morning. PGE is setting up a mobile resource unit outside of Sheridan High School so people can go there for things like charging their phones or using the bathroom or simply to pick up ice and water. Sheridan High's assistant principal, Patrick Schrader, says that help is greatly appreciated.
I'm actually excited that there's some preemptive stuff happening compared to 2 years ago when it kind of hit us by surprise. So our community be better prepared to respond accordingly.
Both PGE and Pacific Power have posted schedules on their websites letting customers know when they can expect power outages in their area. Both companies have also set up multiple community resource centers like the one we just talked about at Sheridan High School. We have more information on those centers at kgw.com. And here's an easy way to find our wildfire coverage online, including power outage maps. Just text the word power to 503-226-5088 and we'll text you back with a link that'll take you right to that information. You can also get the latest wildfire updates by downloading the KGW News app.
Here are some of the other headlines that we're tracking for you on this Friday morning. Big news out of the Ridgefield School District. It's closed until further notice as teachers there prepare to go on strike. Their union says it made some progress in a bargaining session last night, but negotiators say the district is still refusing to provide more money for mental health support and special education students. The price for on-street parking is going up in parts of the Lloyd district. Starting today, it'll cost $3 an hour. Now, this only applies on days with large events in the neighborhood like concerts or games at Moda Center. The City Council approved the change in April to make it easier for people to find parking if they live or work in the Lloyd district or the Rose Quarter. And a heads up if you use the Hawthorne Bridge. Starting today at noon, the left westbound lane and the right eastbound lane will close as crews replace windows at the Multnomah County Courthouse right next to the bridge. The bike lane going east at Southwest Madison will also shut down. Those closures will stay in place until the work is done. And those are some of your Friday headlines.
All right, let's bring in Rod Hill again, and you're talking about that red flag warning that comes into effect later this morning.
Found my forecast sheet, by the way, September 6, 2020. All these notes and different indices on them. What caught my eye was the modeling for that event was showing 54 mile per hour winds at 1,000 feet. That's you folks in the West Hills. Again, this was 2020. It was showing by the time you got up to about Government Camp area, it was 63 mile per hour winds. All of that did verify, and Chris mentioned this, and I will continue to mention as well. We're not talking that this time. We're talking about a typical breezy to gusty east wind day, but This is also going to be, what, the 64th, 65th day with no measurable rainfall. Right. So heightened concerns of those power lines, right? So that's really what I think we're focusing on. All right, here's that graphic if you are just now joining us with the wind speeds. Most of us in the valley, 15 to 25 mile per hour stuff. That's like, hey, a little breezy out, right? If you live in a typical east wind area, this will be an east wind, especially out near the gorge later today going into this evening. There could be some 40 mile per hour gusts. And again, big concerns. And Chris McGinnis really focused on this, the fact that the winds are not just coming through the gorge. There will be 40 to 50 mile per hour wind gusts, it looks like, coming up over the crest of the Cascades, up and down the valley, including getting down into Marion County, including getting down into Lynn County. Now, the wind direction itself is just starting to switch around to the east, and we're pretty much calm out there to start your day. Nobody's reporting any significant gust. Again, up and down the I-5 corridor, that red flag warning starts at 11 o'clock this morning, so it's really going into this afternoon that we think we'll start to notice for the first time that the winds are picking up. 34 in Burns, 43 in John Day, 38 in Baker City, 56 in Salem, 54 in Eugene. Overall, pretty comfortable to start your day, and we are clear out there. I want to point out, because much of this summer, you know, if the valley temperature has been here, the gorge temperatures have been even warmer, right? Not this time around. Portland could hit 90 or 92 today, but Hood River only 85, and the Dow's about 89. So I did want to point that out. You folks would generally be cooler than the valleys for the next day or so, or two. East winds in the gorge, again in the west gorge we're talking, gusting to 40 later today. So I'll be surprised if we don't hit 90. We could hit 92. Could go 97. The record tomorrow is 98, by the way, but the humidity is going to be desert dry, like maybe 15% tomorrow afternoon. And then Sunday, calm conditions, and then look at the temperatures drop into the 70s next week. Really nice. Okay. Hey, Right on the Road is coming up next, and I love Right on the Road because often I go to a place I've never been. I have never been to Benton. Huh. You know, if they just see you walking around, they'll give you a huckleberry pie? Did you know that?
A whole pie?
What happened to me?
A whole pie.
Right on the Road is coming up.